This is how Kratos looks like in God of War Ragnarok, and in this design he may appear in the next game. What's up everyone? In this video we will generate with Midjourney how different characters in God of War could look in the ancient Egyptian setting. Yes, I want Santa Monica Studios to make a new game exactly in the world of Egyptian mythology cause the fruit for the fantasy and the lore of the pantheon itself looks perfect for such a project. However, we still don't know what the next God of War game will be about, but I have decided to turn on my fantasy to imagine who of the gods can appear. Anyway, without further ado, let's move on to the concepts. First we have the main character of the franchise himself, Kratos. I generated variants like this, leaving his canonical image from the previous games as much as possible, but honestly, it's not what I wanted. Since it's an Egyptian setting, I want to diversify his look a bit. I wrote prompt, Kratos from God of War in ancient Egyptian armor, blue gold makeup, fierce facial expression, desert in the background. So I got these results. I personally think Kratos looks very unusual and fits into the atmosphere of ancient Egypt. From this selection, I chose the first and the fourth arts. Upscale. I don't know about you, but I like his design. If Santa Monica decide to do something similar, it will refresh the franchise. To get these results, make sure to specify the lighting parameters and render type in your prompt. In addition, we got these variants. I added some evil facial expression, battle warrior, epic scene. Let's upscale the second and fourth art. Here are the final results. Write in the comments, do you like this redesign of Kratos? Next, I decided to add some gold elements. Gold armor, Egyptian background, warrior photography. These are the more brutal Kratos versions in front of you. Upscale the first and fourth art and get these results. I think it looks awesome, but this wasn't enough for me. I decided to make Kratos in Pharaoh's armor and ended up with this. Agree that it looks unusual, but to be honest, it's cool. Most of all, I liked the last one, but it's worth mentioning these versions too. I like the background here, it looks fabulous. And we move on, and let's do the Egyptian gods. Egypt had one of the largest and most complex pantheons of any civilization in the ancient world. Over the course of Egyptian history, hundreds of gods and goddesses were worshipped, and that's a perfect base for the writers at Santa Monica and Sony Studios. So now we're going to see what those gods might look like in the next God of War. Let's start with the king among the gods, Amon-Ra. He was usually depicted as a man with the head of a falcon and the sun on his head. The people of Egypt believed that every morning, Amon-Ra would begin to sail across the sky to protect all his inhabitants. I decided to portray him more in absolute godly form. I generated him entirely in gold and left the sun as a kind of big crown on his head. I like this design a lot. So if Amon-Ra was a supreme god, then simply Amon was to the Egyptians the lord of the black night sky. And that's how I generated him. I left the gold crown and jewelry. I like the gold accents on his skin. That if Ra represents the light, Amon represents the night. There's also this darker version of Amon. I like his glowing eyes, which shine like stars in the sky, and the shape of his head. The lack of a mouth adds to his mystique. My favorite art for today, Osiris. One of Egypt's most important deities was the god of the underworld. He also symbolized death, resurrection, and the cycle of Nile floods that Egypt relied on for agricultural fertility. According to the myth, Osiris was a king of Egypt who was murdered and dismembered. His wife, Isis, reassembled his body and resurrected him. That's what I got. I decided to enter a prompt, dead pharaoh, mummy face with glowing eyes, pharaoh suit, dark underworld background, and the parameters of light and rendering finalized the awesome art. And the next version turned out like this. Honestly, I like them both equally. Meanwhile, you write in comments what Osiris you'd like to see in God of War. Next up, we have Isis. Here are my favorite arts. If the second is more fantasy, I think the first one fits better into the God of War lore. In the first version, I like her facial expression, also the gold jewelry and skin. It looks pretty damn cool. And in the second, she's more natural and closer to the actual designs from the new PlayStation games. I like everything about it. The golden eyes, facial piercings, and costume. That's the kind of Isis I want to see in the next God of War. Horus. Depicted as a falcon or as a man with a falcon's head, Horus was a sky god associated with war and hunting. According to the myth, Horus was the son of Isis and Osiris. I have a Horus like this. I left the bird elements in his helmet and Horus depicted as a warrior, cause he is the Egyptian god of war. Warrior in falcon helmet, gold armor, ancient Egypt, clouds background, battle scene. I also got this version. They have the same, but here he has a helmet covering his eyes. Next up, we have Seth. He was the god of chaos, deserts, and storms. Seth's appearance poses a problem for Egyptologists. He is often depicted as an animal or as a human with the head of a beast, but they can't figure out what animal he's supposed to be. I decided to portray him in two versions, more humanized and hybrid. And here's the first concept. The evil beastly Seth looks like this. I wrote in prompt, evil human beast, Egyptian armor, war background, also dozens of settings for light and render. I also have an art like this. He came out more human-like than the first one, but that doesn't make him any less scary or evil nonetheless. I love his armor better here. What if Santa Monica decided to make Seth even more human? That's about the size of it. I've spelled it out as it is. God Seth from Egyptian mythology, movie scene, ancient battle background, ancient facial expression, and so on. I was surprised how cool it all turned out, and I decided to upscale all three arts, except for the second. I think this kind of set could be a real battle competitor for Kratos, and that's why I really wish Sony would make a game in the Egyptian world. You write which Seth variant you liked better. Next we have the god of death, Anubis. When I specified photorealistic image of god Anubis, black armor, ancient Egypt background, sandstorm, mid-journey generated these results. To be honest, I was not satisfied, but when I added the keyword giant warrior, everything started looking much better. Of those four, I upscaled the first one and we got this. I also got this cinematic version with pyramids on the back, which would have fit nicely on the game cover. The next four arts depict Anubis at night. Upscale the first and fourth versions, and we get final results like this. Yes, it didn't turn out as realistic as the previous gods, but I like the character design itself. Apop is a giant demonic snake. Knowing how the God of War franchise loves gigantism, he's likely to show up in an Egyptian-themed game for sure. And that's how he might look in the game proper. He strongly resembles Jormungandr, but is slightly different in his skin and overall design. And now we move on to Atreus. I decided to do it in remix mode. Choosing this photo, I entered, in an ancient Egypt, pharaoh suit, dunes in the background. We ended up with options like this. Atreus looks not like himself, but reminds some alien midget, but still I decided to upscale the second and fourth arts. And now it looks a lot better than I expected. I even like the unusual makeup on his skin. It makes the character look even more fantastic. And the facial expression itself, the Egyptian desert background, I think came out gorgeous. And then there are similar variants of Atreus in Egypt. Yes, very similar arts, but there are differences. To be honest, I like this one best. His facial expression and unusual ornaments on his face are perfect. Next, I additionally made 5 more arts that do not refer to specific gods. They can basically be any gods from Egyptian mythology that will appear in the game. The first I present to you is this one. I think it could be an earthly form of Ra, some sort of avatar of the sun or his prophet. I like the art itself, but it doesn't look too sharp. Next comes this evil character. He could be a general of Horus who would command his army, or his personal best warrior. Next comes a certain pharaoh. As you know, the kings of ancient Egypt considered themselves as the children of gods, or even gods themselves, so they also need to appear in the game. So these pharaohs could look like this in human form. Yes, they may look like Maya tribesmen or ancient Nubians, still, it would diversify the lore. I wrote Egyptian pharaoh as a warrior, fierce facial expression, ancient battle background, and so on. And that's it for today. Let me know in the comments which character you enjoyed the most, and what setting would you like to see God of War in. Don't forget to subscribe to You See Magic, and put the likes. See you soon.